Clinton.
And welcome to Black Atlantic. We are a primarily Black Atlantic-centric podcast, website, and media channel with the goal of bringing Canadian East Coast voices to the world.
You can expect to hear from us every week with guests or open discussions exploring topics and perspectives from all over Atlantic Canada and the world.
Be sure to visit our website at blackatlantic.ca.
And search for Black Atlantic on all socials.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. How are you this week?
I'm good. We've done it again, because if you're watching this, you know we're still together in the same room. So you can figure out how we are by the fact that we're still together in the same room, but the clothes
Yeah.
keep changing.
No, I mean, here we are back in the same room, but clearly it's not the same day
No.
of any other episodes that people may have watched with us in this room, because usually people see us on Zoom.
Yeah.
But now we've been able to meet together week after week magically.
I've been flying
record
here
in person.
I got an Aeroplan credit card, and I'm using all of those points right now to come here every week.
Exactly.
Live in studio at 11 p.m. It's Black Atlantic.
All for you.
All for you.
So let's get started.
Heck yeah.
All jokes aside, this week we are talking about an issue that never seems to get dull, and that affects all people of color in all places. I'm not going to say all around the world, but certainly in Canada and the United States and stuff like that. And if you haven't guessed it already, we are going to be talking about the "where are you from" question.
Yeah.
The question of where are you from has always been a hot topic and a source of frustration, pain, anger, controversy for Black people and many people of color, because when you ask that question in Canada, you are indicating to the person you're asking it to, you're telling them that you don't seem like you are from here, and there's no possible way you can be from here. So where are you from? It's an issue because it's, especially for people from all over the place, but especially for Canadian-born Canadians, when we answer the question of where are you from with something like Toronto or Moncton or Canada, it has rarely been
accepted.
It's rarely been accepted. It's rarely been enough of an answer. And so the reason we're talking about this week is that days, weeks, or months ago, I wrote a blog about that topic.
Yeah.
And I know you've talked about that topic. I know we've talked about it together. I know we've all talked about it with friends. And I know everyone has talked about it. It's been in the news, in the media. It was a pressing issue during the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd incidents of 2020, where it got resurfaced. And it's annoying because what my blog topic basically was about is it's not even so much the where are you from question, it's all the questions that follow after that.
Yes.
Where are you? No, where are you? No, but
Where
where
are
are
you
you?
really from?
Yeah, you can here. Let me let you speak for a minute, because you know what the questions are. So
Yeah,
it starts off with like where are your
Where
parents from?
Where are you from? Where are you really from? No, but where are your parents from? Where are your grandparents from? Where, like, it takes about 6 questions before you finally get to, like, what you're just trying to ask is why are you Black? We know you're trying to ask why do you have melanin, and yet it takes about 7 questions to get to, but, like, where are your grandparents from? No, what country of origin are you? Why are you exotic? Why do you look different? I've had all of them. I've also had how are you so tan, and had to be like, I was born like this. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where until you tell the person asking some kind of an answer that explains to them how you got melanin in your skin, they won't be satisfied. And then when they do finally get that answer, it's a lot of the times the same look for everyone. It's that, oh, okay, that's where you're from.
Yeah.
Now I'm satisfied. Now I feel content. Now I have an answer to explain your Blackness in Canada or your Asianness or anything. South Americanness in Canada. Now I understand where you're from. Now I think I know something about you. Now I feel like I have this contextual frame of reference to put you in, to feel like I know you and I have some sort of an advantage over you.
That's interesting, because I don't think of it as I know you and I have an advantage over you. I think of it more as as a, now I understand, like, why you're different. Like, not so much of as an over thing, but, like, now I can explain in my head how you've come to be here. As if it's, like, a lack of belonging or a reason why I should not be where I am. So I need to understand how you got to where you are, which I find very concerning.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of ways to ask that question. And again, it's people of color and black people are fed up. They're fed up with hearing it, not because of the actual four words in that question, where are you from?
Yeah.
It's because it's never accepted. And, you know, growing up in Toronto, and you've been there for 4 or 5 years,
Yep.
growing up in Toronto, asking people, where are you from, is a very common practice.
Yeah.
In Toronto, you have this smorgasbord of people from every culture and country all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a really exciting way to just learn more about the diversity in Toronto and where people are from.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times people are not from one place. Their parents are of mixed origin and things like that. And the big difference I found when I moved to New Brunswick in the whole where are you from conversation is, growing up in Toronto, when someone would ask me where I was from, I would give them an answer, and that would be it. We could move the conversation, that question was answered, and whether I said Toronto, Canada, or I gave a 10-minute detailed explanation of my entire genetic background, they accepted that first answer, and then we're able to move on and continue the conversation. When I came out to New Brunswick, it was the exact opposite. The first answer was never accepted. Where are you from? No, but where are your parents from? Where are your grandparents from? Where's your great grandparents from? Until you got that melanin. So that is the biggest problem I've had out here in New Brunswick.
I was just going to add that I think that one of the, like, other problems that people have with the question, if we want to get into why the question is harmful, it's not just the not accepting our answer. It's the fact that there are many black people who don't have an answer. It's the disregard for slavery and for the fact that people can't tell you that it's Congo or Senegal or whatever country that was colonized, because they cannot trace those roots, and it is deeply traumatizing to bring it up, to insinuate that we should be doing 23andMe's to figure it out. The transatlantic slave, also the slavery that happened within different states of America, means that there are so many people who just don't have an answer. And so to ask that question adds layers of trauma and harm on top of just, why don't you believe us? Why can't you accept that answer? And why are you asking something that, like, is intrusive, and I don't think you're asking your white friends that deeply. Like, you could accept Glencairn Drive, you could accept Moncton, you could accept New Brunswick. You wouldn't be pushing for, like, your origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I mean, I've had different feelings at different times being asked that question. It's not necessarily that they feel they actually have some kind of plausible, usable advantage over you, but it's a personal question that you don't typically go up and ask strangers. Now, I have a huge amount of white friends. I have a huge amount of white family members. Probably, I'd like to tell people, close to like 300 white relatives in PEI. And the thing is, I know that white people in Canada, wherever they're from, be it PEI or Alberta, or whether they're from, Germany or Poland or Denmark or Russia or whatever, like, when they're not asked constantly, where are you from? It's not a question that gets asked to white people, because the people asking these questions in the wrong way are fine to just feel that those people are Canadians.
Yes.
They're Canadians. They have very little melanin in their skin. You're Canadian. That's great. I find that the people who are asking this question in the wrong way are not able to compute or even register the idea that someone with our skin type could simply be Canadian.
Yes. It speaks to this, like, fallacy of the mosaic, right? We want to continue to believe that we are this very nice country that is accepting of everyone, and this even goes back to the conversation about Ukraine and the amount of refugees that get accepted from different war-torn countries depending on what they look like, and bringing it back to be Canadian, despite the fact that it should actually be synonymous with Indigenous. you picture a white person wearing roots who likes Tragically Hip, which we've made a joke on a previous podcast, that's what you picture when you picture a Canadian. You don't picture someone who is of Indian descent in a sari. You don't picture a woman in a hijab. You don't picture Asian people. That's not what you think of when you think of Canada. You think of white people, and that's one of our biggest transgressions as a country, and it contributes to the erasure of racism that we face, is because we aren't accepting of those people while while still only accepting some refugees, but painting this picture that we're a mosaic, a melting pot, all are welcome. But that's not the case, just by these microaggressions that you and I have suffered in the past and other people suffer every day.
Yeah, I love to repeatedly point out that I hate the word microaggressions nowadays. I feel
Macro.
I feel like microaggressions are just aggressions, and if you look at the definition of microaggression, it is literally only a term to define when someone of white origin is saying something about someone else's cultural background, more or less. But I didn't even mean to go off on that segue. But to people asking these questions who continue to ask the question, to them it's because Canada is white.
Yes.
And sure, Canada is probably mostly white. It's mostly white. And if you grew up in a rural area or a small town or something like that, and you haven't been exposed to a lot of culture, then sure, maybe your part of Canada is white. But that is not all of Canada. That is not Vancouver or Montreal or Winnipeg or Halifax or Toronto or, I mean, nowadays, even Moncton. But you have like your St. John history with a huge history of New Brunswick of black people. And I'm leaving out a number of different cities here. But no, Canada is not white to me.
Yeah.
And to the people who ask that question, I guess to them it is. Now, not every white person who asks that question is asking it with some kind of ignorant intent. Some people, they are very cultured and they understand that the diversity that is in the country and stuff like that. And they're asking in a good way. But in my opinion, I think we're just fed up. I think we're fed up. We don't want to hear it even once. When I don't know, how do you react when you hear that question?
So I actually heard this question 2 nights ago because I met a man at a bar.
Yeah.
And I forget how he worded it, but he said something along the lines of, I think, what's your ethnic background?
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that. Regardless, no, it wasn't that, because it wasn't as clear. And I was like, do you mean like racially, where am I from? And he said yes. And I was like, cool, because I don't like that question. That's what I said. And then I answered the question. It's not going to gatekeep my knowledge. But I find when I react to the blanket covert, where are you from, which does not mean where are you from geographically, I find I clam up, because I know that it's coming from a place of curiosity that I do not welcome about myself. It does that thing where it puts us in cages, like we are animals, like we are being perceived as something to be objectified, often I was going to say for women, but that's not true, but for people of color, fetishized by white people in a way that makes me feel like I'm a spectacle. And you're asking where I'm from to understand my origin story and my history like I am something that's alien and foreign and does not belong, again, here or in front of you. So if I hear where are you from throw it back to a shopper's customer or someone on campus or wherever in life that I was experiencing a lot of people.
Yeah.
I knew that whatever answer I said was not right, but I know that I would not say Senegal. I've never been. Like, that's the answer you want to hear, is that my father is Senegalese. But that has nothing to do with me. That's not who I am. Up until we started doing racialized podcasts together, I didn't even identify that much with my blackness because I wanted to be white to fit in. So you're asking me to tell you something about myself that does not, for so long, feel like it's even about myself. So I don't react well. I'm like, from New Brunswick, but I live in Toronto. No, but where are you really from? And then at this point, I'm like, do you mean why I'm black? And then they're like, I guess, yeah. And then I'm like, my dad's from Senegal, but my mom's French, Canadian, Acadian.
So it depends on how much time you have, whether you want to get into the detail, if you're annoyed or irritated,
now that
or you just cut right to the chase nowadays. You call them out for what they're really doing. I
get from question 1 to question 2 very quickly. From New Brunswick, live in Toronto. If they go to the know where are you really from, then I go to, are you asking if I'm black? Because I'm no longer in retail. So if you're asking me, I am out, and you are bothering me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about you when you get asked?
I don't know. I used to enjoy answering the question. I have a diverse genetic background, but of like primarily black and white. But I used to enjoy it. I used to enjoy telling the stories. But now I literally get tense. Like I get my back up. Like if I was a cat, if like the hairs on the back of my body would stand up straight, and I get annoyed. I get defensive. I get this feeling where okay, I was relaxed, and now I'm not relaxed anymore. I was socializing. I was talking to people. I thought I was having a regular conversation, and to me that conversation is done now because you're asking me this intrusive question, like similar to like asking me what medications am I on or what's my health history. If I was like, what's my, I don't know, never mind. Personal questions.
Yes.
And I get annoyed. I get defensive. I get a little defensive. I'll say Canada. Or I'll say Toronto. Or if they keep asking me, I'll be like, Toronto. I'm from Toronto. And then sometimes, I think nowadays, white people are starting to get that that's not really a question that you can and should ask.
Yeah.
It's kind of become like the little brother of the N-word, whereas people are afraid to ask it out in public. And I'm sometimes talking to people and I almost feel like I can feel it on the tip of their tongue, like they're like
so,
especially when I used to business network a lot more, like they're like like you just feel like they don't know what to say next, and there's that hesitation. What I want to say one day, and like you said, like because we don't all have like a 23andMe at our doorstep, and even though that's not really reliable, I mean, what answer do you want? I'm from slavery. I'm from slavery, and if you are asking me because you happen to have some kind of family heirloom where you have uncovered the unkept documents of where black people in North America are from, can you please share that with me? Because I don't know. No one knows. We were stolen from mostly West Africa. Whatever country we were from, we were brought and separated, and our languages and culture and everything was stolen from us, and we were no longer from the country of origin that our ancestors are from. We were labeled black, this is a whole episode for another, like, black is actually a name that was given to us by white people. Yeah. But let's not get into that right now. No. We're from slavery. So unless you know genetically where I was stolen from, then I can't tell you where I'm from. I don't know where I'm from.
Yeah.
Like, sure. And we did that. So for Christmas one year, my brothers and sisters, and I don't know if my mom was involved, we got together and we got my dad a DNA kit. I think it was from Ancestry DNA, which apparently has the largest database of African people, which is important because DNA tests don't work exactly how people think they work. They're not as scientific. There is no database where you would just get a genetic test and know where someone is from. When you do a DNA test, they do match your DNA with other people who have done DNA tests in their database, and based on similarities in DNA, they assume that if your DNA is similar to millions of people in another country of origin, then your ancestry is probably from there. Okay. So we have a pretty good idea of where in Africa our roots may have been from, but that was 500 years ago, and so we don't know. And even the country that my father's ancestors may have been from is a country in Africa with over 200 cultures, 200 languages. So, we felt no closer to knowing where we were from. I haven't been switching this back and forth. That's okay. It's a question that unfortunately gets my back up, and it kind of gets me annoyed nowadays. And I know this happens to Asian people. I know this happens to East Indian people who are Asians. And I know that happens to
anyone who does not look white.
Anyone who
doesn't fit their poster child of what whiteness should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, it's tiring. It's very tiring. But alternatively, like, let's say you're me and my ancestry and you're not from slavery. Yeah. Do I get a gold sticker if I say that I'm not? Like, again, it boils down to the question of what are they looking for. If I were to be like, oh, hold up, sorry, no, I'm like Africa and we were never enslaved, would they give me a cookie? Like, what do you want?
True, good question. Yeah, good point. Okay, good point. So were you gonna
No, proceed.
Yeah, so I'm speaking from, you and I are both Canadians born in Canada,
Yes.
with ancestry on one side of our families that
White.
go back to Africa, mine
Yeah.
through Jamaica, then going back through Africa,
Yeah.
and another side that's white. I know on my side of my mom's family, I'm a fifth generation Canadian. I don't know if you know how far your roots go back here in Canada, but you're probably a second, third, fourth, or fifth Canadian generation Canadian as well.
No, my dad came here for university. My grandma's from Mali. They never left. I don't think they've had ever come to Canada before my dad came.
No, your mom's side.
Oh, my mom's
Yeah, I'm
side.
talking about your mom's side in terms of being like second, third, fourth, or fifth generation Canadian.
Oh.
If you don't know, that's okay. I'm saying on my white mom's side, I'm a fifth
On your
generation
white
Canadian.
side.
Yeah, my dad's an immigrant, but I'm from Canada, so that when you ask me
think five.
where
I
I'm
think
from,
five.
okay, when you ask me where I'm from,
Yes.
I'm
That's
from Canada.
valid. It's
Yeah,
valid.
I'm from Canada.
Yeah.
So for people, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? For people who are from African countries or first generation did immigrate here and they're not from Canada, when they get asked that question, how do you think they feel about it?
When they're not from, I think that it must be really hard for people who are not from Canada. And we've had Kem Ogotistima, and we've spoken to her before on another podcast, but then I also did a panel with her. She's very lovely, who Kenyan, moved here for university and did pharmacy school. And we've had this conversation before actually with other people as well, that it's like the first time that you hear that you're like black or different is of course when you're in a white centric place and you're being othered and being told and reminded that you are different about your skin tone. If you're from Kenya and you're surrounded by millions of other black people, then being black is not the thing that's getting pointed out to you. It's probably something different. So for them to be asked about where are you from when they don't have those roots and they're fresh from here, I feel like that must be even more difficult to try to fit in, to try to feel like you belong, to try to feel like you made a good decision immigrating here, because you're for the first time ever questioning your identity or this thing that makes you different. And for some people, I think, I forget if Kem said it, but I would imagine for some people it might be their first instance of maybe a racism being committed against them because they're being questioned. They're having their whole identity and existence questioned based on the fact that they don't look like what whoever they're speaking to thinks they should look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine it still takes them out of their comfort zone, which is what I was saying. It takes them out of their place of feeling like maybe they belong here, to it being pointed out to the person asking that you don't appear to be from here or belong here, so where are you from? And to the listeners listening, I don't know if they caught something super important that Hillary said. In our podcasting over the past year and a half, we have talked to a lot of people born and raised in Africa or even the Caribbean or other places. Well, black people are in every country in the world, but people who came here with very, very dark skin and to them had spent their entire life never being even called black.
No.
They would be Nigerian or Jamaican or Kenyan or Somalian. They got to be from the country they were from.
Yes.
Just like black people in Canada should just be considered Canadian. And it wasn't until these people from, let's just stick with African countries, came here that they were told, they were learned, they were informed that they were black people when they'd never thought of themselves like that because they grew up around, let's stick with Kenyan, they grew up around Kenyans who were all just Kenyans. And that's another really interesting thing. It just shows that it shows the racism in words themselves, because the fact that terms like white and black were started to become popular in the 1700s and is now what is used to describe white and black people in North America.
Another blog that you wrote about while we're talking about blogs you've written
I guess
about.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
It just further highlights the fact that there, even in our language, there needs to be the separation, and we can't get past it, and we just, thank you, we can't just be Canadians, apparently.
No.
But of course, and I mean, this probably sounds like a hateful episode, and we're not being hateful. We're both half white, but white Canadians are just Canadians.
Yes.
But black people are... Go ahead.
No, finish your sentence.
No, just black people in Canada are black Canadians first. They're black, and then they're Canadians.
I was going to say that I think that a lot of it also, it comes down to two things. It's one, black as a blanket statement for anyone who just like looked different.
Yep.
Obviously. And that's the difference, right? When you're Kenyan or Nigerian, maybe you get to specify what tribe you're from. Like my
Yeah.
father, it speaks Wolof. There's actually a group of people in Mali that are considered to be Wolof people. There's like subsects of tribes that relate to my father's background that he has told me about. Depel, like all these people that are important to our upbringing that then lead to him being Senegalese and only labeling himself as that. The blanket statement there would be to say Senegal because you're not going through all of these rich tribes and languages and cultures. To call us all black does the exact same thing, and to then again claim this mosaic is the falseness because you're not letting each square shine in the way that it should. You are literally saying that we are, again, erasure, supposed to all be the same, from the same place. Why are you different? But then you want to fetishize and tokenize the why we're different by bullying us. And I almost wonder if it comes from their eagerness to be like, I'm 1/8 Scottish and 1/10 Irish and this person kissed this person. Again, without realizing that a lot of the percents come from colonization, war, raping people, pillaging people, and a very dark history. But they are screaming at the rooftops, these 23andMe results, and then it's like they want camaraderie in this thing. And for us, it's filled with trauma, shame, genocide, death, and anguish, and pain, and sometimes just no answer. And I can't tell if it's like, again, this isn't supposed to be a hateful podcast, and I don't want to say stupidity, but like an ignorance to the fact that we cannot have that pride. It doesn't exist. Our pride is in naming those tribes. Our pride, I've referenced this book before, Essie Edugyan's On Race and Storytelling, talked about the movie Wakanda as if it was what Africa could have been without slavery. That pride is what we have when we talk about our tribes, our cultures, our languages, our people. When you say black, you take away what Wakanda represented.
And also really powerful, before I say anything else, really powerful, really amazing points. Like, I really connected with everything you just said. But also I wonder, without this technological aspect of it, in a lot of places in Africa, maybe what Africa was.
Yes.
Because we know that, the victors of war and colonization and invasions typically burn the history, burn the books, get to write the history books. And we know that more ancient cultures in certain parts of Africa were highly, I am not going to use the word civilized, highly advanced with, kings and queens and royalty and trade and commerce and economics and science and school and education, and not all in jungles and in deserts and valleys. And even if they are, it's actually okay if they are. If that, there's nothing wrong with living a nomad life. If we all live that way, the earth would not be burning down to the core. We would not all be in danger. We'd be humans living on a planet without our cell phones, but we wouldn't be destroying the planet for future generations. But that's amazingly interesting. Like, Wakanda could be an example of what Africa could be right now, but also probably an example of what it was. Yeah. I mean, cultures were a lot more intermingled thousands of years ago than anyone realizes. There were black people all over the world, maybe not North America, but all over Europe and China and Asia, and white people in Africa and Chinese people in Europe and stuff like that. It was all really connected. But
Essie Edugyan talks about that in On Race and Storytelling, about like royalty that like black royalty that existed throughout Europe, people like white people who had slaves and then loved them and treated them like kings, who actually were able to have money and buy freedom, but then became royalty themselves. There's a whole part about the Asian and African experience, the slavery that happened through there, but then also Asian people who went to, I forget exactly which countries, but had kids there, but then because of who they were associated with, they sort of had to kill members of those families to try to pretend that like never happened. But
really?
There's also so what it was, from my recollection, it was I want to say China, but I could be wrong, a group of people that came and they were doing some kind of like testing or building something in a country in Africa, and they were supposed to be there for years and years and years, so they ended up cheating on their wives, having families and kids with people in a country in Africa, and then when they finally were allowed to go back, like 10, 12, 15 years later, to their wives that were back in Asia, all of these kids were told that they needed to have checkups, and they killed all of these babies to get rid of these Blasian children that were proof of infidelity in like the like maybe 1800s or something.
What?
Yeah. So that's how a different culture was erasing history. But even that, like, how would you speak to those women or those women who had other children? What, like, there are some who apparently caught wind and were able to like save their kids. What about those kids? What are their histories?
Wow.
You can't ask them where you're really from.
That's wild. That sounds like a story out of the Bible or something. That's some crazy stuff. Wow. I can't even. That's okay. I don't know what to say about that. That's wild.
I keep speaking, but I wanted to see if I can look it up.
No problem. I also wanted to comment on something interesting you said about Black people in Canada, erasure, and how we're all the same, which is something that we constantly like to talk about on this podcast, and that is Black people are not all the same. In an episode that we recorded days, weeks, or months ago, Hillary and I just had a really healthy debate about like differences of opinions, but not only opinions aside, like Black people are not all the same. Black people from North America had to build our own culture and sense of identity in the past 400 or 500 years because that was all taken from us and erased. So, I mean, what Black is now is the culture of people struggling in North America who had to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and just simply survive. And but the reality is Black people are from the Caribbean, from Canada, from one of the 54 countries in Africa, from Europe, and from all over the place. So the idea of Black is not so simple to be like a where are you from question. And again, I know that white people haven't necessarily been asking this question for generations with hateful intent, with malicious intent and stuff like that. But just unintentional ignorance of simply not knowing the impact of what this question has been having of people of color and people of different cultures for the longest amount of time, and how this buildup of frustration has really exploded into this animosity towards even wanting to let people know where we're from. When it's something that typically you might want to be proud of, it's just become an annoyance. Yeah. So, to all the white people out there,
and we know you're out there,
who want to know, who want to embrace in culture and engage in culture, and when getting to know someone, want to know about their cultural origin, what can they do? What are some of the things? So before this is not a hate on white people episode. So what can We're gonna end our episode with giving some friendly advice and tips.
Yeah, some tips and tricks on how not to be racist when asking, where are you from?
Yeah. So, you want to start? You want me to start?
I can start with my own tip, which is just don't do it.
Yeah.
I think that's the main one is before you do it, think about it and then don't do it.
Yep.
Tip number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I'll elaborate on that. Like, forget about knowing for now. It's not that important. If you've known someone for weeks or months or years, maybe that's a good time to bring it up if they haven't on their own. But if you've known them for that long, you probably know where they're from. If you talk to them and care about them, it's probably come up in conversation.
Yep.
But remember, for so many people, it can be a very personal question.
A traumatizing question.
Yeah, it's like you don't just ask someone their health status, their medical status.
Yep.
What's your bra size? What's your jog size? Like, you don't just walk up to a stranger and ask that. You don't have to ask, why do you have melanin in your skin? Because that's technically what you're asking.
Yes, it is.
So just, like, stop it. Stop looking at our skin. If you don't know me, don't just... If you really can't think of anything else to talk to me about and you've just met me, just stop talking to me. Walk away. Go do something else. Go network or meet with someone else. Or, I mean, I know there's different scenarios. Business.
There's different
strangers,
scenarios.
Parks, friends, at a house party, at a club.
But by and large, if you
think of something else. Be more creative. Like,
if
you can literally...
That's the most interesting thing to ask me about. Think of 3 more things first. At the minimum.
Yeah.
Like, my job, my hobbies.
Yep.
Unless, just... If you could just specify, like, so are you from this city? At least makes it sound like you're asking... where am I from in a local sense?
Yep.
Because I would like to not tense up at the question. And maybe you just do mean what area of Toronto do you reside in?
Yep.
And that's an okay-ish question.
Yep.
Because, I mean, stranger danger. But to be the broad where are you from gives me racialized undertones. And maybe you do just mean what neighborhood. Are you from New Brunswick?
Yeah.
Have you seen the Pen?
Yeah. So that's, you can ask what neighborhood of Toronto. You can ask, did you grow up in Toronto or somewhere else in Canada?
Yes.
Did you, have you spent your whole life in Moncton?
Yeah.
Or you could say, I was born and raised in Halifax.
Yeah.
Are you from here too?
Yeah.
Then you're like, you're giving some personal information about yourself before requesting it from someone else.
Yeah.
And I'll save this till the end unless you say it first. That's fine. There is I think you said it earlier in the podcast, there is a more direct way of asking that question. Why you blackity black?
Why you black? Where'd you get your tan from?
Is this an ongoing joke?
Why you a Negro?
Oh, we didn't use that clip in the other. Okay.
No, we didn't use the blackity black.
Yes.
You'll see it another day.
Yeah, and if you really, really want to know where someone's from that bad, one suggestion would be to get to know them over a long period of time and be their friend. I think I already sort of alluded to that. And let me see here. What's my note here? Oh, okay. So one way, I think you did say this earlier, but one way you can ask where someone is from, because those words are triggering, is you can be more direct and actually ask the question that you want to know. And you did say it earlier.
Yeah, why are you black? Are you? What's your ethnic background? I hate ethnic background, but yeah.
You could say, so.
I recognize.
What's your cultural origin?
Okay.
No. What's your cultural background? Like.
Yeah.
Are your ancestors from Canada? Maybe. No, that all better than where are you from?
It's better than where are you from.
At least it's honest and direct, because we don't have to ask. You don't have to ask me 5 questions to get what. Go ahead. It's better.
It's better and direct, but then we're getting to the crux of you're just asking me about my race, and I still don't like that.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be happy either way. Either you ask me where are you from, and I assume you mean my race, and I'm going to get butthurt, and you might just mean what neighborhood of Toronto, or you're going to say what's your cultural background, and I'm going to be like, why you need to know why I'm a nigga? Why you need to know this?
Yeah.
You don't need to know. You don't need to know my script. You don't need to know my bra size. You don't need to know my race.
Yeah. The where are you from question has become like the.
It's the new N-word.
Yeah, it's the new N-word. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
But my biggest piece of advice and this is from the blog, to anyone who wants to ask that question, if you need to ask a person of color where they are from, the simple way to go about this is when you ask someone where they're from, no matter what the fuck their answer is, move on. Accept what they say. Whether they say they're from Moncton, Toronto, Canada, Africa, whether it's a black person and they say they're from Poland, you say, cool, and then you talk about something else.
Yeah.
You keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
That is the biggest piece of advice I can have for anyone. Because maybe if you do that, maybe for the white people who are ignorantly answering this question, maybe after 10 years of asking enough black people that question and just simply accepting the answer, we'll let our guard down a little bit. Maybe we'll let our guard down. Maybe we'll start to think that maybe people are just genuinely curious about where they... Because if you accept the answer I give you, I will not be so frustrated.
Yeah. Also, like, if you accept the answer that we give you, maybe then we'd be more likely to engage in friendship. And you know what you can find on my Instagram? Plenty of mention of Senegal and Acadie. Like, just become a super spy. Use the internet at your disposal. Yeah. Figure it out. Like, if my... Like, where are you from in Facebook still says Moncton and currently living in Toronto, that's all you need to know about me. You don't need to know any further. That gives you my whole scope of life.
Yeah.
It truly does.
Yeah.
Because, if just accept the first answer, like, it's, like, we're not trying to trick you. We're not lying, and we don't want you to keep pestering us. So just accept the first answer that we give you.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
Or I just had an idea. This is a joke.
An idea, but it's a joke.
I mean, like, if you're really going to ask that question, just be like, has anyone ever bought you a DNA kit? I have a DNA kit on me here. Can we do this now and you email me the results?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm so
Not the best
interested.
joke.
I'm so interested in knowing. Here's my COVID rapid test to get your DNA, but I'm going to mail it to Ancestry23andMe.
Yeah.
And then we can just figure out where you're from.
Yeah, because the reality is a lot of black people don't have
know.
a sweet clue. And it's really offensive to ask.
Yeah, I feel
so
like
you probably shouldn't.
I would do that to a white person. The next white person who asks me, I'm going to be like, tell me all of your percentiles.
Yeah.
Because clearly, since you care so deeply, you must know that you're 1/8 this, that, and the other.
I mean, you know what? That's something I've done too. Not exactly that, but when people ask where you're from, I'll be like, Canada, Moncton, New Brunswick, used to be from Toronto, now I say I'm from Moncton. But then I ask like a white person, like when they say where are you from, I say where I'm from, and then I'll answer, I'll be like, and you, where are you from? Are you from New Brunswick? Like, are you from Canada?
We should probably.
And where are you from? Did you grow up in New Brunswick or no?
Where
and
are you from?
they feel uncomfortable. I honestly, I see it in the face. It catches people off guard. I'm like, oh, I'm from Canada. And are you from Canada or where are you from? And it's like, what do you mean I'm Canadian?
That's what we've got to start doing. That's genius. I'm going to start being like, no, but where are you really from?
Yeah.
Do I sense an accent or something? No, but like, where are you really from? Are you sure you're not 1/8 Scottish? Your nose turns in a specific way that reminds me of that. I don't hear any Acadian in there. Was someone from Australia somewhere? A little Italian?
Yeah.
Is your hair really, really dark? Are you part Greek? I live in Greek town. I'm sorry, guys.
No, all good. And if
maybe
all people of color
wildly offensive back.
start doing that, maybe white people will get the feeling. And then eventually it'll be like, oh, well, my great grandmother is from Wales. You can be like, oh, that's where you're from.
Happen is someone's gonna be like, well, my great grandmother survived Auschwitz, and then the whole joke's over.
Yeah.
But you know what? We could pull out the slavery card.
But I mean, so you were saying we could ask them that first or in response?
Oh, probably in response.
Oh, well then it's...
Obviously, we're not asking that first.
Yeah, so then...
We don't need to be on the offense.
Then, yeah.
What?
If that happens, then...
I'd be like, oh, so you know my trauma. You know suffrage.
Yeah, well, yeah, that would be a good response.
Yeah, okay. That's what I would say.
All right. I think that's an episode.
That's an episode.
Thank you to all our listeners. Know that, we did this episode with the most honest of intents.
Yeah.
It is a triggering and traumatizing thing for many people of color. And all jokes aside, the reality is you should not be asking someone that you just met where they're from. Mm-hmm. If you are that uncreative, then, you gotta step it up. There's so many things you can talk to a person about other than the melanin in their skin. And...
All I was going to say is two thoughts. In terms of asking questions, I participated in a conference and they said that one of the best things to ask instead of like, where are you from, is like why questions, because then you get to know the person's personality. Okay. Why do you like doing garage sales? Why do you like that sports team? And then you get to find out things like, oh, it was my dad's favorite team and we went to do these things together, and you unlock memories and all these like actual personal moments as opposed to just asking about like the factoid list. And it was a really fascinating.
That's brilliant.
It was about palliative care and how to actually speak to people who are like going to pass away, but about like why were these moments important in your life? Why are these memories crucial? But if we did that every day, we'd get to know our neighbors and our people instead of being like, oh, did you catch the game? Oh, the weather. Like, oh, I saw that you did this garage sale. Why did you do that? And then you find out, and kids going to university. Oh, why did they pick that university? And then it snowballs into like an actual knowing of a person.
That's brilliant.
So there's that. And then the other thing I was going to say is that we fight like cats if we have to. Podcast also covered this conversation and they tagged it in your blog.
Yep.
Sally and Allon and Natasha.
There's but hold on. First of all, don't ask people why did you come to Canada.
Yeah.
But also so the we can Fight Like Cats If We Have To podcast that was produced by Sally and Allon and Natasha. They have a whole episode about this as well. If you want to type them into any streaming platform, you can find and listen to that. A lot of good content there.
Yes, we'll link it in
a lot of really interesting episodes.
We'll link it in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, which you should be because we're together, different week, different clothes.
Yeah, if you've seen other episodes of us together in this room, it wasn't today.
No, different week, different clothes.
Okay. So, where can people find us?
Blackatlantic.ca. Social media channels, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and the like. Black Atlantic.
Oh, say that again. Black
Black
Manic?
Manic.
Perfect. We also do have a GoFundMe, and we hate to ask, but we are really this organization here is a grassroots organization. We're trying to expand and grow. We're very new. We're working hard to highlight Black voices and eventually other people of color as well throughout Atlantic Canada. Every other week we have a guest on the show getting perspectives from other people as well.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll probably have larger panels. What's it called? Like a consortium.
A consortium?
No.
Do you want like a live event, a live streaming, a live taping of a thing?
Like a conference.
A workshop?
Yes.
A conference. Those types of things. We would make anything possible if we could afford it.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. But we would genuinely do live events because I've been in Moncton now for 2 months if you're still watching this in-person content.
Anyways, okay. Thank you so much for listening.
Clinton Davis, Cropberry.
Peace.
Bye!